Welcome to the jump and welcome to December. I'm Rich Bowers, and with me I have two of my favorite guests. I have technical manager Matthew Truelove. How are you doing, Matt?
Hey, Rich, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Great, great. Thanks for coming on. And Sydney Morris back with us. Good afternoon, Sydney. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm doing good. I got my new mic for these Jump podcasts. I'm excited to use it.
Excellent. Just means we have to have you on more often then, huh? So,
Yes.
with that being said, let's talk about some news. So, there is a chip race among us. Companies, popular companies like Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, they are announcing and releasing and growing their chip productions. Matt, tell us a little bit about some of the chips that you're looking forward to and why, and why we also should be aware of all of these coming on out.
Absolutely. So in the chip race, we got a couple different races going on depending on what the use case of the chips are for, right? But the
Mhm.
story around all these manufacturers is honestly vertical integration and trying to cut out reliance on middle corporations for chip production, like Nvidia. Nvidia's done great with the AI boom, but a lot of companies that I'm going to talk about, like Amazon and Microsoft, are trying to find ways to manage things on their own, especially when it comes to AI. So in the AI space, we got the Amazon Inferentia. Uh, that's supposed to power their middle layer, and they have services like Amazon Bedrock. That is a foundation model to build generative AI on using their cloud services.
Cool.
Well, that's an exciting one. We've got Microsoft, then obviously has the partnership with OpenAI. Amazon has the partnership with Anthropic, by the way. But Microsoft, they have their Azure, their cloud platform, but it's called the Azure Maya 100, and they have the Cobalt 100 chips. Again, for the AI space, but also those are two of the major companies in the cloud space as well. So AI on the cloud, and both of them cutting out NVIDIA right there. And then outside of the AI space, we have some cool innovations with the Apple M3, right? So we had
Nice.
the M1, the M2, the M3. That's just going to be a beast in their MacBook Pros. I know that I've read they got it coming out in their 14 and 16 inch generation MacBooks coming up. It's got a lot of memory, GPU capabilities. You can do multiple monitors, unlike the M1. So a lot of cool things with that.
That's a lot. You
Uh,
threw a lot at us there.
I know,
So
and I could keep going too, but I
I,
should probably pause for a second here.
I know you get, and by the way, it's no surprise that you bring up the chips that relate to the cloud. Just again, if you're new with us, Matt is AWS certified and is our instructor primarily for cloud trainings. So let me go to Microsoft first. So you mentioned Microsoft. Their chips that they're creating are designed specifically for running cloud AI workloads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with very large language models,
Mm-hmm.
and they're making their own to potentially stop their dependence on NVIDIA. I was looking at the cost of these NVIDIA chips. Do you two know how much they're running for, cost
I don't have
wise?
that off the top of my head. I
No.
just knew they were trying to cut them out because I assumed it was expensive.
So I'm sure Microsoft is getting some type of discount, but they on the market they're seen as $25,000 to $40,000 per chip,
Wow.
right?
That's
And it just shows
insane.
it shows how powerful it is. So with Microsoft, they use about 30,000 NVIDIA chips. So if they're able to create their own chips, they're saving $750 million roughly. And just saying maybe they cost 25,000, even if you decrease it by another 250 million, it's still quite a lot of money being saved. Um, and so that's really huge. And then you mentioned Apple. So with this Apple chip, there's a
Mm-hmm.
different reason for it as opposed to the Microsoft ones and Amazon ones, right? Is Apple geared more towards another area?
Yeah, so the Apple chip right now, when we talk about the M3 chip, the Microsoft and Amazons we just mentioned, those are at their cloud data centers, right? That you are not directly interacting with. You're using through
Mhm.
the internet cloud services to power things like AI and these large models. The M3 chip, that's something that's going to be locally installed on Apple products that you purchase. Like the Mac that I'm speaking on right now is an M1 generation Apple MacBook. But
Nice.
you get that M3 generation Apple MacBook, hint, hint, Rich.
Mm.
That's going to be extremely powerful for the newest things we can do in graphics, media editing, visualization, all sorts of stuff.
Very cool. Gaming, right, as well.
Yeah, I didn't say that one. Gaming, of course.
Game, of course. Yep. All right. Well, thanks for the hint. Christmas is coming up. And by the way, in case you're wondering about power-wise, the M3 is 35% faster than the M1, 17% faster than the M2. One more thing before we get to our next topic. NVIDIA is not just rolling over and saying, okay, cool, Microsoft, Amazon, make your own chips. They have another one coming out in mid-2024 called the H200. With an increase in memory bandwidth and memory capacity. So keep an eye out for that. I can only imagine that just where these things are going, how much larger they're going to become. Okay, over here, something that was everywhere right before Thanksgiving came about. And this was the drama over at OpenAI. We wanted to wait until the dust settles before we got into it. It seems like there's some grounding of those events. But Sydney, before we get into OpenAI, the main person that we would talk about is Sam Altman. Who is Sam Altman? And then we'll take the story from there.
Yeah, so Sam Altman is the creator and CEO of OpenAI, so ChatGPT, for example. Funny, Microsoft has been saving all this money. They might have been saving for maybe bringing Sam Altman on the team with them. We'll hear more about that throughout the story and the drama between all that. But yeah, so Sam Altman is the CEO, and he got into allegedly a little bit of trouble and got fired.
Okay. So let's dig in a little bit deeper, right? Starting at the beginning, kind of walk us through a fairly brief timeline. Following the days of OpenAI's developer event, just a few days before, where Sam Altman was on stage explaining everything and discussed in our previous Jump episode. Sam is then released or fired by the board. Yep. Why and how did that go down?
Yes. So a couple weeks ago, this all went down within literally like maybe 4-day time span. It was crazy. But apparently he was very dishonest about some certain things in terms of the safety of OpenAI with humanity. And he was not being completely transparent with the board of directors on this information. And apparently he frequently butt heads with the chief scientist of OpenAI as well on the safety precautions. And apparently he was fired via Zoom by this chief scientist. So that's a little bit of what happened with that. So they clash because Sam Altman has been very much, bringing more focus and more marketing and more advertisement to ChatGPT. And they're a little bit nervous and concerned about how much marketing and advertisement is going out to the public because they're still trying to figure out the safety precautions of it. So that apparently he wasn't open about some of the advertisement and marketing. Again, this is all allegations. It's not 100% true. This is just insider information because nobody really knows. There's no actual proof of the lying that's been occurring that the board of directors have, used against him to get him fired.
Great. So let's pause right there. So you're saying, say November 17th, that Friday, Sam Altman is fired by the board. What they're claiming was to protect OpenAI's mission of making AI beneficial to humanity, but also potentially saying that Sam Altman's communications with the board hindered ability and exercise of their own responsibility, right? So exactly what you're saying. How is there truthfulness? Are they pushing too many things out? There's other conspiracy stories of AGI in the mix. We'll keep with a little bit more of the facts. So then we're going down here, and for whatever reason, when the movie comes out in book, we'll all hear about it, right? Sam Altman is fired. And then over the weekend, things kind of get interesting, right? You have a couple people who also resigned, including Brockman, Sam Altman's right-hand man. You kind of see a wave of some things. Microsoft gets involved. What did Microsoft do?
So Microsoft took advantage of what was going on within the drama and wanted to bring Sam Altman on the team for their new OpenAI branch. And what happened with that is a lot of employees were pretty mad about what was going on and Sam leaving. So they wrote a letter or sent a letter to the board of directors, and it was over 700 employers that were on board signed this letter and said, hey, we do not agree with what's going on. We feel disrespected. We had no idea. We didn't have a say in this whole thing. We're going to go join Sam at Microsoft and follow him. So that was pretty interesting.
Quite a popularity that Sam Altman has over there at OpenAI, right? So you have the board that does this seemingly against everybody else's wishes. I believe the employees, 550 of the 700 total employees, that's a massive population of that, sign a letter saying that they might quit unless Sam Altman is reinstated and the board resigns. Around this time, you start getting the main guy who probably was leading the charge to take Sam Altman out, as far as we know, Suchkever, right, who is saying that he regrets this and will do anything to bring them back.
Yep.
Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, hires Sam Altman for a research department, brings Brockman with him. Yep. And then this is when this letter comes on out. So overall, this backing basically by the employees is quite impressive. And what ends up happening here? So all this ends up happening so much within such a short period of time. We're looking at November 17th to November 20th, November 21st. What happens today?
From what I know, with all of these employers that are backing Sam, pretty much they had no other choice. The board of directors had no choice but to respond back to this and basically beg Sam to come back. And Altman is not 100% back from what I've recently heard, but there has to be an agreement in place where that chief scientist that originally fired him and the rest of his backers to completely step down from the board. I do know that chief scientist is going to remain within the company. He's just not going to be on the board anymore. And several other board members have obviously left and been replaced with there's only one original board member still left in the entire group. So
great. So it seems like it's on a way to being reconciled in whatever way. Two good points. Then we'll move to the next topic. Is during all of this, a merger with Anthropic, which Matt mentioned earlier, was being discussed but turned down by Anthropic. Another thing too, before we focus fully on the culture and backing of the employees for Sam Altman, when someone like Sam Altman leaves, there's probably a hit to a potential stock price. Right? So funding would be in jeopardy for the payouts. Let's keep that in mind as well with the amount of people backing, having him coming back. All right. Thank you, Sydney. Great rundown and so much information. Exciting story. Again, I'll be the first one to check out that movie when it releases in a year or two. Let's talk about GitHub's Universe 2023 that occurred around the same time that all this drama happened with Sam Altman and may have gotten lost in the media. GitHub announced a whole bunch of updates for Copilot. Right? Mm-hmm. Matt, can you tell us a little bit, what were some major announcements that occurred at GitHub's Universe 2003?
Yeah, so not long ago we had Universe 2023, and there's a lot of major releases that I've got listed over here. One of them is they actually brought Copilot. Your interface and interaction with Copilot was IDE dependent. So like your coding editor, you had a plugin basically on the JetBrains suite or Visual Studio Code to work with this tool. It's now on GitHub's site now. They're integrating Copilot directly into the browser website for functionality. That has a huge chain of implications with that. But some of the other major features, they have the enterprise edition of GitHub. In a nutshell, that's kind of like getting Microsoft 365 for an entire company, right? Enterprise licensing, access to your private code bases and stuff like that through the company at enterprise. They do have a lot of other really cool features, enhanced functionality from chat that I know we want to talk about. Mm-hmm. But it can help with just the product engineering aspect and generating a lot of documentation from product requirements. There's code scanning auto fixes. That's actually something that GitHub, when you uploaded code onto a GitHub repository, I mean, this has been in place for years now. It had a bot that would scan your code and look for major known listed vulnerabilities in any like libraries and stuff you used. But they're taking that to the next level with the AI of Copilot, especially now that it's integrated into the browser. There's secret scanning. Secret scanning just means if you it's bad practice to hard code your passwords or API keys that link up to other parts of your apps in your code. So it'll scan and let you know hey, you probably shouldn't do that, right? Making sure that everyone's up to speed on best practices in security. There's several other major things too that I could go on for a while. But the browser integration, the enterprise, and then some new features with chat.
Very cool. You can see the excitement, right? Matt being technical and seeing the excitement as he explains these. The part I really wanted to focus on, I thought this one was massive, was the Copilot chat. Can you give us a quick overview of what that is? And is this as game-changing or have the potential to be as game-changing as it sounds?
Absolutely. So Copilot chat allows us to use natural language processing as developers. So just like you might with ChatGPT or Bard and other ways, use plain language, ask for certain requests from Copilot. Now, as a side note, other Gen AI like ChatGPT, you can input code snippets and stuff like that and ask it to refactor things or analyze stuff for you. But GitHub Copilot is driven for that purpose, right? It's purpose driven for code and development. So one of the cool things that I was watching on the chat enhancements is when we parse through text, right? If you say you're making an app to read in several documents and look for certain data points, right? And there's keywords you're looking for, even like your email search that you use on Outlook, right? Think about all of the search capabilities and the logic behind that. We use regular expressions for that. And a lot of times with developers, those can be a little hard to decipher and read, and they're not ever really documented really well. And you're reading someone else's code and you're like, what are they trying to do here? Copilot is really, it can help bridge the gap with chat, especially. Rich wrote some code that's parsing all these emails for certain data points for me, and he didn't document it very well. Sorry, Rich, in this example.
That happens. Yeah.
Instead of having to have necessarily as much back and forth between Rich and myself to figure out what was going on in that product, Copilot, with a fair amount of accuracy, can decipher that for me, generate documentation, and speak in plain language as to what's going on.
See, and that's really impressive. So breaking that down, there's a lot of features there. I'm going to zone in on the one part where you mentioned at the end. Natural language as a new universal programming language. Natural language. Does that mean that I could just speak and it can create code? It can find bugs. It can put documentation for me. I could just verbally speak in natural language or type natural language. Is that what this is telling me?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're still going to, there's an aspect of prompt engineering where you're going to need to set up context and input for what you want it to do. But then exactly that, you can say, hey, you know what? Copilot, I have this function right here, and I've been asked to generate test coverage of it. Can you write this set of unit tests for it for me? And yeah, I mean, it's capable of doing that, generating the documentation, refactoring code. So basically taking your starting and endpoint and the middle layer and making it better too.
And this was so impressive. I know we're getting close to time here, but what is the impact? Where does this go from here for developers? Is this going to be something where not immediately, but there's no, not Java, there's not Python, it doesn't matter. We can all kind of just talk into this and there you go.
You know,
Sounds huge.
I mean, this opens a whole other conversation right here, but this is my speculation. I don't know that developer and coding and programming in of itself is going to be a isolated job 10, 20 years from now. I think it's going to be like having good communication skills that lots of jobs need to do. Now that you can code with natural language processing, you still have to think about big picture and architecting and how you want to host it and security and that stuff. So you still have to have a technical knowledge. But your ability to write, just like you said, Rich, I'm not necessarily as worried about you on the technicalities of writing Python or Java and stuff like that.
It's mind blowing. Sydney, I heard that you wanted to chime in a little bit. Did you want to add anything there?
I mean, I just think I could totally see that communication is going to be the number one. And as I think all the technology starts to advance, it's going to be even more important that communication skills are at the top priority, because who is going to be able to interpret this? Who's going to be able to show others like what is this all about? And just in general, I think with the growth of that, it's going to be so important.
And it's, I say it every time we're on these calls. Everything is moving so quickly, right? You even have
Very quickly.
ChatGPT that speaks now, right? In certain areas. Who knows where this is going to go by the next time we do this one, the next one in a week or two. But with that being said, Matt, Sydney, if I don't get to chat with you, happy holidays. But otherwise, I'm Rich Bowers. This is The Jump. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.